What if I told you that the morning warm-up routine you've trusted for years is secretly draining $800 from your bank account every single year? And no, that's not a typo. The way most drivers prepare their engines for the road is based on outdated myths that cost serious money in wasted fuel, premature wear, and avoidable repairs. Today, I'm exposing the brutal truth about engine warm-ups and revealing the science-backed method that protects your engine, saves fuel, and extends your car's lifespan by tens of thousands of miles. And whatever you do, stick around for the critical mistake at number 3, because it's the one that could wreck your catalytic converter before you hit 100,000 miles. Let's dive in. The old school belief goes like this: start your car on a cold morning. Let it idle for 5, 10, maybe even 15 minutes until the engine feels warm, the RPMs settle, and the cabin heater starts blowing hot air. It sounds responsible. It feels like you're being gentle with your engine. But here's the reality check. Modern fuel-injected engines don't need this treatment. And worse, they're actively damaged by it. Studies from the Department of Energy reveal that for every 10 minutes of cold idling, you waste roughly a quarter gallon of fuel. That might not sound like much until you multiply it across an entire winter. If you idle for 10 minutes every cold morning for just 100 days a year, you're burning through 25 gallons of gasoline while going absolutely nowhere. At current fuel prices, that's between $75 and $100 per year in pure waste. But that's just the beginning of the financial drain, because the real costs hide in places most drivers never look. Long cold idling doesn't just burn fuel. It floods your engine with excess gasoline that never fully combusts. In a cold engine, fuel doesn't vaporize efficiently, so the computer injects extra fuel to compensate. That raw fuel washes down the cylinder walls, dilutes your motor oil, and strips away the protective film that keeps metal parts from grinding together. Independent lab tests from automotive engineering studies show that extended idling can increase engine wear by up to 2/3 compared to gentle driving. That's not a small difference. That's the difference between an engine lasting 150,000 miles and one cruising past 300,000. And here's the kicker. The catalytic converter, that $200 emissions component under your car, relies on high exhaust temperatures to function properly. When you idle for long stretches, exhaust temps stay low and unburned fuel floods the converter. Over months and years, that causes internal fouling, reduces efficiency, and triggers check engine lights. Replacing a failed catalytic converter isn't cheap, and it's almost always preventable with smarter warm-up habits. If you're already realizing you've been doing this wrong for years, you're not alone. Most drivers inherited this habit from parents or mechanics who learned to drive in the 1970s and 80s when carburetors ruled the road. Back then, long warm-ups were necessary because carburetors couldn't adjust fuel mixtures automatically. But today's engines are fuel-injected, computer-controlled, and designed to warm up while driving, not while sitting still. Hit that subscribe button right now if you want to keep learning the habits that actually protect your car instead of destroying it. Because what I'm about to show you next changes everything. The scientifically correct warm-up routine is shockingly simple. After you start your engine, give it 20 to 30 seconds. That's it. Not 5 minutes, not 10 minutes, just 20 to 30 seconds. During that brief window, oil pressure builds, the computer stabilizes the fuel trim, and coolant begins circulating through the block. Once those 30 seconds pass, you're ready to drive. But here's the critical part. Drive gently. Keep RPMs below 3,000, avoid hard acceleration, and let the engine gradually come up to operating temperature while you're moving. Real-world data from major automakers, including Toyota, Honda, Ford, and BMW, confirms that engines warm up 40 to 50% faster under light driving load compared to idling. That means less fuel waste, less oil contamination, and significantly reduced wear on pistons, rings, and bearings. Why does driving warm the engine faster than idling? Because movement creates load, and load generates heat efficiently throughout the entire engine block, transmission, and drivetrain. When you idle, only a fraction of the engine is working, so heat stays localized and uneven. But when you drive gently, heat spreads uniformly, oil circulates faster, and all the systems that depend on warmth transmission fluid, power steering fluid, differential oil begin reaching optimal temperatures together. The result? A healthier, longer-lasting vehicle that burns less fuel and suffers far less internal stress. Drivers who adopt this method report smoother shifts, quieter engines, and noticeably better fuel economy within the first week of changing their habits. Now let's talk about the financial impact in detail, because this is where the $800 per year claim becomes crystal clear. Imagine you live in a region with cold winters, and every morning from November through March, you idle your car for 10 minutes before driving. That's roughly 150 days of idling. 10 minutes of idling burns about 0.2 to 0.3 gallons per hour, depending on engine size, which means each 10-minute session wastes around 0.05 gallons, or about 7.5 gallons total over the season. Multiply that by 5 winters, and you've wasted nearly 40 gallons of fuel doing nothing but sitting in your driveway. But the fuel cost is just the surface. The real money drains from accelerated engine wear, oil contamination, spark plug fouling, and catalytic converter damage. Let's break it down piece by piece. Oil contamination from excess fuel dilution means you need to change your oil more frequently. If your oil gets contaminated after 3,000 miles instead of 5,000, that's an extra oil change per year at $50 to $80 each time. Spark plugs exposed to constant fuel washing foul faster, meaning replacements every 30,000 miles instead of 60,000. That's another $100 to $150 in early maintenance. Catalytic converters that get flooded with unburned fuel degrade internally, and when they fail, you're staring down a repair bill between $800 and $1,500 depending on your car. Add in the wasted fuel, the premature wear on piston rings that allow more blow-by into the crankcase, and the stress on engine mounts from prolonged vibration during cold idling, and the total cost over 5 years easily hits $800 or more. And all of this is completely avoidable with a smarter 30-second warm-up and gentle driving routine. Let's address a common myth head-on. But my oil needs time to circulate before I drive. This sounds logical, but it's based on outdated thinking. Modern engines achieve full oil pressure within 5 to 10 seconds of startup. Oil pumps are powerful. Oil passages are engineered for rapid flow, and tolerances are tight enough that oil reaches every critical surface almost instantly. That's why the 20 to 30 second rule works perfectly. It gives the oil time to pressurize and circulate without letting the engine sit and flood itself with raw fuel. Mechanics who specialize in high-mileage engines consistently recommend this approach because they see the results firsthand. Engines with 200,000, 300,000, even 400,000 miles that started their lives with smart warm-up habits show dramatically less sludge, less carbon buildup, and cleaner internals compared to engines that idled excessively every winter. Another myth: idling keeps my heater warm. Yes, but at what cost? Your cabin heater relies on hot coolant circulating through the heater core. When you idle, coolant heats up slowly because the engine isn't working hard. When you drive gently, coolant heats up much faster, and your heater starts blowing warm air within 2 to 3 minutes instead of 10. So not only do you save fuel and reduce engine wear, but you also get a warmer cabin faster. It's a total win across the board. Drivers in Minnesota, North Dakota, and Canada who switched to this method report getting heat in their cars twice as fast as when they used to idle, and they're saving hundreds of dollars in fuel every single winter. Now, let's talk about what happens when you ignore this advice and keep idling for long stretches every day. Over time, the damage compounds. Fuel dilution in your oil reduces its viscosity, meaning it can't protect bearings and camshafts as effectively. That leads to increased friction, metal-on-metal contact, and microscopic scoring on cylinder walls. Those tiny scratches allow combustion gases to blow past the piston rings into the crankcase, a condition called blow-by, which further contaminates the oil and accelerates wear in a vicious cycle. Eventually, you start noticing symptoms: rough idle, poor acceleration, increased oil consumption, blue smoke from the exhaust, and ultimately, compression loss that requires an engine rebuild or replacement. And all of this traces back to one bad habit: excessive cold idling. Here's a real-world case that drives the point home. A 2015 Honda Accord owner in Wisconsin idled his car every morning for 15 minutes throughout the winter for 3 consecutive years. By 90,000 miles, he was burning a quart of oil every 1,000 miles. His spark plugs were fouled, and his catalytic converter threw a check engine light. The diagnosis: severe fuel dilution in the oil, carbon buildup on the intake valves, and a failing catalytic converter. Total repair cost, $2,100. And the mechanic told him the damage was entirely preventable if he'd simply driven the car gently instead of idling it every morning. That's not a rare story. Mechanics see this pattern constantly, especially in northern states where long idling is culturally ingrained as the right thing to do. Thanks for sticking with me through the technical details. It shows you're serious about protecting your investment. If this is saving you money already, hit that like button and subscribe, because the next section reveals the exact step-by-step warm-up routine that high-mileage car owners swear by. The optimal warm-up routine for modern engines works in 3 simple stages. Stage 1, the 30-second stabilization. Start your engine and let it run for 20 to 30 seconds while you buckle your seatbelt, adjust your mirrors, and prepare to drive. During this brief window, oil pressure builds, the computer completes its initial sensor checks, and the idle RPM settles from its high, cold start level down to a steady rhythm. You'll hear the engine tone change as the ECU adjusts the fuel mixture. That's your signal that the engine is ready. Stage 2, the gentle drive phase. For the first 5 to 10 minutes of driving, keep your RPMs below 3,000. Avoid hard acceleration and drive as if there's a cup of coffee sitting on your dashboard that you don't want to spill. This is the phase where your engine gradually reaches its optimal operating temperature, usually between 195 and 220 degrees Fahrenheit. During this time, metal parts expand to their proper clearances, oil viscosity stabilizes, and combustion efficiency improves. Transmission fluid also warms up during this phase, which is why you'll notice smoother shifts after a few minutes of gentle driving. This is the phase that protects your engine from shock loads while allowing it to heat up efficiently. Stage 3, normal driving. Once your temperature gauge reaches the middle of its range, or after about 10 minutes of driving, your engine is fully warmed up and ready for normal use. At this point, you can accelerate normally, merge onto highways, and drive however you need to without worry. The key is that you reach this stage through gradual, intelligent warm-up, not by sitting in your driveway wasting fuel and flooding your engine with excess gasoline. This 3-stage routine is what mechanics recommend, what engineers design for, and what high-mileage car owners rely on to push their vehicles past 300,000 miles without major repairs. Let's address some specific scenarios where drivers think long idling is necessary. Scenario 1. It's negative 10 degrees outside, and my car is covered in ice. Even in extreme cold, your engine still doesn't need more than 30 seconds of idling. What you do need is time to clear your windows safely, and that's fine. Use those few minutes to scrape ice and snow while the engine idles. But once your visibility is clear, start driving gently. The engine will warm up faster under light load than it ever will sitting still, and you'll get cabin heat much sooner. Scenario 2. I have a turbo engine, and I heard they need more warm-up time. Turbocharged engines do benefit from a slightly longer warm-up, but that means 60 seconds instead of 30, not 10 minutes. The key is still the same. Let the oil circulate briefly, then drive gently until the engine reaches operating temperature. Turbos are cooled by engine oil, so driving gently ensures the turbo bearings get proper lubrication without being subjected to high loads while cold. Scenario 3. I drive a diesel, and diesels take longer to warm up. This is partially true. Diesel engines do warm up more slowly than gasoline engines because they run leaner and generate less waste heat. But the solution isn't extended idling. It's the same gentle driving approach. Some modern diesels even have block heaters or grid heaters designed to speed up warm-up times. Use those if you have them, but don't idle for 15 minutes thinking it's helping. you're still wasting fuel, contaminating oil, and delaying the moment when your engine reaches efficient operating temperature. Now let's tackle the environmental and legal side of this issue, because it's not just about your wallet and your engine. Excessive idling is terrible for air quality, especially in residential neighborhoods where cars sit running in driveways every morning. The EPA estimates that unnecessary idling from passenger vehicles wastes about 3 billion gallons of fuel per year in the United States alone. That's billions of dollars in wasted money and millions of tons of unnecessary carbon emissions. Many states and cities have even passed anti-idling laws that limit how long you can let your car idle in certain areas. Fines range from $50 to $500 depending on the jurisdiction. So not only are you damaging your engine and wasting money, but you could also be breaking the law without realizing it. Here's another financial angle most drivers overlook: insurance and resale value. Cars with documented high idle hours, which some modern vehicles track in their computer systems, can be flagged during pre-purchase inspections as having higher wear. Fleet vehicles, taxis, and police cars that idle excessively are known to have shorter engine lifespans, and savvy buyers avoid them. If your car's computer shows thousands of hours of idle time, that's a red flag to potential buyers, and it can hurt your resale value by hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Keep your idle hours low, and you protect not only your engine, but also your car's future marketability. Let's talk about remote starters because they've become incredibly popular, especially in cold climates. Remote starters allow you to start your car from inside your house, and many drivers use them to run the engine for 10 or 15 minutes before they even step outside. This feels convenient, but it's one of the worst things you can do for your engine. All the same problems apply: fuel dilution, oil contamination, catalytic converter flooding, and wasted fuel. The smarter way to use a remote starter is to start the car 2 to 3 minutes before you leave, just long enough to take the edge off the cold interior, then drive gently. You'll still get the comfort benefit without the mechanical and financial penalties. Here's a pro tip that combines convenience with engine protection. Invest in a quality engine block heater if you live in a region with harsh winters. Block heaters plug into a standard electrical outlet and warm the coolant before you even start the engine. This dramatically reduces cold start wear, allows the engine to reach operating temperature faster, and eliminates the need for extended idling. Block heaters cost between $50 and $150 installed, and they pay for themselves within a single winter through fuel savings and reduced engine wear. Drivers in Alaska, Canada, and the northern U.S. have been using block heaters for decades, and they report engines lasting well past 400,000 miles with minimal wear. Another overlooked factor: oil choice matters enormously during cold starts. If you're using the wrong viscosity oil for your climate, your engine struggles to circulate oil quickly when cold, which increases wear during the critical first few seconds after startup. Cold weather requires thinner oil that flows easily at low temperatures. That's why winter-grade oils like 0W20 or 5W30 exist. The first number, the 0W or 5W, indicates how easily the oil flows at cold temperatures. Lower numbers mean better cold flow. If you're running 10W40 in a Minnesota winter, your engine is fighting through thick, sluggish oil every time you start it, and that increases wear dramatically. Check your owner's manual for the recommended viscosity range for your climate, and if you live in a cold region, always choose the lowest winter weight option that your engine allows. Combine that with the smart 30-second warm-up, and you've just eliminated two of the biggest sources of cold weather engine damage. I appreciate you making it this far. Most drivers never learn the science behind what actually protects their engines. If this is changing the way you think about your car, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what your current winter warm-up routine looks like. I read every single comment. Let's address one more myth that refuses to die. Idling doesn't use much fuel because the engine is just sitting there. This is completely false. A typical 4-cylinder engine burns about 0.2 to 0.3 gallons per hour at idle. Larger V6 and V8 engines burn even more, sometimes up to half a gallon per hour. That means every 10 minutes of idling wastes roughly 0.05 gallons, or about 2 ounces of fuel. Multiply that across a winter of daily idling, and you're burning gallons of gasoline while literally going nowhere. Some drivers argue, but it's only a few cents per session. True, but those few cents add up to hundreds of dollars per year. And that's before factoring in the repair costs from premature wear. Financial discipline isn't just about big purchases. It's about eliminating small, invisible drains that compound over time. And excessive idling is one of the most invisible drains in car ownership. Here's the psychology behind why this habit is so hard to break. For many drivers, idling feels like care. It feels like you're nurturing your engine, giving it time to wake up before asking it to work. But that emotional narrative doesn't match the mechanical reality. Modern engines are designed to start and drive immediately. They don't need coddling. They need intelligent use. The best way to care for your engine is to drive it gently when cold, change the oil regularly, use quality fuel, and avoid prolonged idling. Those habits show real care because they align with how the engine is actually engineered to function. Let's look at a side-by-side comparison. Driver A idles for 10 minutes every cold morning before driving. Driver B idles for 30 seconds, then drives gently for the first 10 minutes. Over the course of one winter, 150 days of cold starts, Driver A burns an extra 7.5 gallons of fuel, spends an extra $25 to $30 on gas, exposes the engine to 25 hours of unnecessary idle time, contaminates the oil with excess fuel, and accelerates wear on the catalytic converter. Driver B uses minimal fuel, reaches operating temperature faster, keeps the oil clean, and reduces engine wear by up to 2/3. Over 5 years, Driver A will likely face repairs related to oil contamination, spark plug fouling, and catalytic converter failure, totaling well over $800. Driver B avoids all of that and drives a healthier, more efficient car with dramatically lower operating costs. Now, let's talk about automatic start-stop systems that many newer cars have. These systems shut off the engine when you come to a stop and restart it when you lift your foot off the brake. Some drivers hate them and disable them immediately, but here's the truth. Auto start-stop systems are specifically designed to reduce fuel waste and emissions during idling. The engine control unit monitors dozens of parameters: battery charge, coolant temperature, cabin climate demands, and only activates the system when conditions are safe. Studies from manufacturers like BMW, Ford, and Volkswagen show that start-stop systems reduce fuel consumption by 5 to 10% in city driving, and they do not increase starter or battery wear when functioning properly. If your car has this feature, leave it enabled. It's helping you save fuel and reduce idle time automatically, which aligns perfectly with the smart warm-up principles we've been discussing. Here's a powerful real-world example that ties everything together. A fleet manager in Chicago oversees 50 delivery vans that operate year-round in harsh winters. For years, drivers were instructed to idle their vans for 10 minutes every morning before starting routes. Fuel costs were astronomical, and engines needed rebuilds around 120,000 miles. Then the company hired a consultant who implemented a new protocol: 30 seconds of idling, followed by gentle driving until the temperature gauge normalized. Within 1 year, fuel costs dropped by 12%, engine longevity increased to over 200,000 miles before major service, and catalytic converter failures dropped to nearly zero. The financial savings were so significant that the company expanded the program across all locations. That's the power of smart warm-up habits applied at scale, and the same principles work whether you're managing a fleet or just trying to make your personal car last as long as possible. Let's also discuss hybrids and electric vehicles briefly, because they handle warm-up differently. Hybrid vehicles like the Toyota Prius or Honda Insight use electric motors during cold starts and only fire up the gas engine when absolutely necessary. This dramatically reduces cold start wear and fuel waste. If you drive a hybrid, your best practice is still the same. Start the car and drive gently. The hybrid system will manage engine warm-up intelligently, often keeping the gas engine off for the first few minutes if the battery has sufficient charge. Electric vehicles, of course, have no engine to warm up, but they do benefit from preconditioning the battery and cabin while plugged in, which reduces range loss in cold weather. If you're shopping for a new car and cold weather efficiency is a priority, Hybrids and EVs offer massive advantages over traditional gas engines that waste fuel during extended idling. Here's another critical point. Extended idling isn't just bad for your engine. It's also terrible for your transmission. Automatic transmissions rely on fluid circulation and heat to function properly. When you idle for long periods, transmission fluid warms up very slowly, which means the transmission operates in a cold, thick fluid state far longer than necessary. Cold transmission fluid doesn't lubricate as effectively, and it increases wear on clutch packs, bands, and valve bodies. When you drive gently after a brief warm-up, transmission fluid heats up quickly and reaches optimal viscosity, protecting all internal components. High-mileage transmission specialists report that cars with excessive idle time show significantly more internal wear and sludge buildup compared to cars that were driven gently from cold starts. And there you have it, the complete truth about engine warm-ups, the myths that cost you money, the science that protects your engine, and the exact routine that saves fuel, reduces wear, and extends your car's lifespan by tens of thousands of miles. If you learned something valuable today, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with anyone you know who still idles their car for 10 minutes every winter morning. Knowledge like this can save your friends and family hundreds of dollars and years of engine life. Drop a comment below and tell me, how long do you currently let your car idle before driving? And are you going to change your routine after watching this? I read every comment and I love hearing your stories. And before you go, check out my next video where I reveal the 5 most expensive maintenance mistakes that destroy car reliability and cost thousands in avoidable repairs. You won't want to miss it.